We didn't start dental school with a clean slate. We started with $20,000 in credit card debt. And when you're living on student loans, that changes everything. Because it's not just student loans anymore, it's debt on top of debt. In this video, I want to walk you through how we got here, what it actually looks like for us, and what we're doing to try to pay it off during this season. I think this is something that doesn't get talked about enough because I think a lot of people just assume that when you're starting something like dental school, you're starting it with a clean slate. And that's just not always reality. For us, it wasn't one big thing. It was a lot of smaller things over time that added up, especially with a family of 7. So we're going to talk briefly about what that credit card debt looked like for us. So we have 5 different cards that would range anywhere from $50 or so to upwards of $6,000. And obviously we've been here for a while. So that $20,000 amount, thank goodness, has gone down some. But of course, when you're just paying minimums, you have that interest that is continuing to fight against you every step of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and put next to me what each card is and how much the current balance is as of me filming this video and what the total is. I think the crazy thing about debt is how quickly it adds up, and you have small purchases here or there, sometimes larger, maybe an emergency happened, but then you also have 23, 25, 27% interest, whatever the case may be. And then you end up in a world of trouble very, very fast. So for us, a lot of these things just simply came down to, we were a family of 7 living on one income, and not a high income at that. We did not have enough money. Our income was not high enough to cover our living expenses all the time. Anytime we had an emergency that would happen, something with the cars, because it always is, it's always the cars, $800 here, $1,200 there. And very quickly, when you don't have the money for that, you don't have an emergency fund, and you put it on the credit cards, then you're sitting there paying that $800 bill 2, 3, 4, 10 times over. And it just really, really puts you in a hole that you feel like you cannot dig yourself out of. So for us, it was not just the car emergencies that were on there, but because we did not have enough to cover basic living expenses, because I've looked back at our statements, I've not obviously spent on them in a long time, but looking back at our statements to see okay, what were our last, when we were using them, what were our last several transactions? And it is really sad because I've almost forgotten, most of the time it was gas or it was groceries. And it is just so crazy to put myself back in that time when we were in such a rough spot that we were putting groceries and gas on a credit card. And to think that we're still paying on them, it's gosh, that is just, it's so sad. It's so disappointing, but that was our reality. So after a little bit of that, I want to say a few months, 6 months plus, my husband ended up getting a second job. And I've talked about that before. If you guys have seen any of my previous videos, my husband worked at Olive Garden and has done that for I think about 2 years now or something. That was really what kind of helped us with that buffer. That was what got us to a place where not only did we not have to use credit cards anymore, but we could start paying things off more aggressively. Or obviously it got to the point where we kind of just had to go back to minimums on the credit cards so that we could start saving for things to be able to move for dental school. So that really, for us, him getting that second job, it was crucial because it kind of put a stop to continuing to just add more onto the cards. But unfortunately, at that point, a large amount of damage was done and the hole was just too big for us to dig out of. Like I said, we went back to paying minimums up until the last month. That is what we have done the whole time that we've been here. So while I'm filming this, it is April 12th. This will be the first month that I can go ahead and put more towards our cards. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll talk about that in a minute. So now that we're living on student loans, the credit card debt has felt so much heavier. We obviously live on a fixed income, and so it would be amazing to, instead of putting a bunch of money towards paying off credit cards every month, it would be amazing if we had that money to live off of so that maybe my husband didn't have to also work Olive Garden while still in school. And then of course, obviously, the interest is not going anywhere. It's continuing to grow. We have high interest rates on these cards, and it's definitely not helping us at all. It is basically to the point where you're essentially only paying $20-30 on your bill because the interest is taking so much of that minimum payment that you're really not getting anywhere. So that's kind of the cycle that we've been stuck in. And when we've already got this looming student loan debt that we're going to end this part of our lives with, we definitely want the credit cards to be done and gone as soon as possible. Because each of our credit cards has been so high, just the minimum monthly payments total combined is a little over $600. To have an extra $600 a month would be insane. And in fact, next month, I will have the remainder of my car paid off. And that will give us an additional $300. So really, if the car was paid off and we didn't have to pay on credit cards anymore, that is an extra $900 a month that we would have. My husband could quit Olive Garden today. So it just really puts it into perspective how different things could be and will be when all of this is said and done. But it is just, gosh, it's like a gut punch every single month paying that, knowing, oh, we could have this, it could be ours, we could do so much with $600 to $900 a month, and it would just be life-changing. So here's what we're doing about it. Since we moved here last summer, 2025, we have been paying just the minimums. So we will monthly pay, like I said, it's a little bit over, it used to be just $600 flat, but interest, of course. It is just a little over $600 a month. One of the cards is paid off and has been for definitely before we moved here. I can't remember if I can find out, I'll put it on the screen, but it's been paid off for a while and I literally just have one small bill coming out of there. So Netflix, I always pay it immediately off, easy. On the others, just been paying the minimums. Nothing crazy, no like trying to pay additional on anything because we just simply, being on the fixed income, don't have the money. Like I mentioned, my car is getting ready to be paid off next month and it's not even a full payment. It's like a partial payment and it's done. We have been biding our time knowing that that was coming up to just get us by until May. So now that May is about to be here, literally around the corner, that will be the last payment. And then our plan has been, we are simply going to roll that $300 into our credit card payment. So instead of paying just $600 on our credit cards, we will pay the $900. Another thing that we have been biding our time for is waiting until tax season came around. So obviously, as you can imagine, a family of 7 making no income for half the year is gonna get a pretty good tax return. We wanted to use our tax return to just annihilate as much of the credit cards as possible. And then just continue, like I said, snowballing the $900 into the credit cards until they're paid off. And of course, in the meantime, we absolutely do not use the credit cards for anything. We have not touched them since we have been here. And I'm really proud of us for that. It's not even in our minds. It just does not happen. So obviously it's going to be more difficult to pay them off if you were still also spending on them. We're not, and it's still gonna take us a long time to pay them off. But if I had to do this all over again, I wish we would have lived like we were already in dental school. I wish the year or 2 years before we moved and he got the acceptance and we knew that we were coming, I wish we would have just lived like we were already in. And obviously that is easier said than done. I think it would have been a completely different experience had we done that. So that would be my advice. If you are thinking about this path or planning on applying next year, or even if you're about to start in August and you have maybe less credit card debt than we do, live like you're already in school. Live like you're already here. Live like you've already got the acceptance. And I think what that does, yes, obviously it is a difficult way of living. It is hard to live on a very low fixed income, but I think it's good training, it's good practice. But also if it can in any way allow you the opportunity to get more debt eliminated or all debt eliminated, it's worth it. It is definitely going to be worth it. And I wish that we had lived like that before. I wish we would have done that differently. Student loans are only part of the equation, and everything else that you bring into it shapes the way that your experience goes. I think this is just one of those things that you don't quite understand the magnitude of it until you're in it, until you're doing it. I'm really curious about something though. If you're starting dental school or medical school, are you coming in with a clean slate financially? Or are you bringing debt with you? If this is something you're navigating, I actually shared our full monthly budget and how we make this all work on student loans in this video right here. And after you watch that video, I'll see you guys in my next one where I talk about what we're doing with our $9,000 tax return. I'll see you there.